On the 1st of May, 2022, a family pulling their boat into a marina on Lake Mead saw something sticking out of the mud. A rusted steel barrel. There was a man inside it. He had been shot in the head. He had been down there for roughly 50 years. And the only reason anyone found him is that the largest reservoir in the United States is disappearing. And he was not the only thing the water gave back. Lake Mead sits behind the Hoover Dam, holding back the Colorado River, and it supplies water to about 40 million people across the American Southwest. When it is full, the surface sits at 1,220 feet above sea level. In July of 2022, it fell to 1,040. That is a drop of roughly 180 feet, straight down, leaving the lake at 27% of what it can hold. The last time the water was that low was April of 1937. And back then it was low because the reservoir was still filling for the very first time. If you stand on the shore now, you can see exactly how far it fell. There is a white band of mineral crust wrapped around the rock, 160 feet tall, marking where the water used to reach. People call it the bathtub ring. Below that ring is everything the lake had been keeping, and it matters far beyond Nevada. This one reservoir supplies water to roughly 40 million people across 7 states. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles, and the farmland that feeds a large share of the country in winter all drink from the same shrinking pool. Las Vegas took the threat seriously enough to spend hundreds of millions of dollars drilling a new intake tunnel deep under the lake bed, below the old pipes, specifically so the city could keep pulling water after the surface dropped past them. They built it because they expected this. A city planned, in concrete, for the day the lake would not be there. Start with the barrel. The man inside had been shot and then folded into a steel drum, which is a method with a very specific history in this part of Nevada. Las Vegas is 45 minutes away. Investigators dated him by what he was wearing. His shoes and his clothes were sold at Kmart in the middle to late 1970s. That puts his death somewhere between about 1975 and the early 80s. Nobody has identified him. Years later, he is still just the man in the barrel. 6 days after he surfaced, a second set of human remains appeared on a different shoreline, then a third, then a fourth. Park officials said plainly what everyone was thinking. As the water keeps dropping, expect to find more. The lake gave back machinery too. On the 21st of July, 1948, a B-29 Superfortress came down onto Lake Mead. It was flying a secret research mission, testing an instrument for tracking the sun, and it hit the water so hard that 3 of its 4 engines tore away. All 5 men aboard got out into life rafts. 1 broken arm, and that was it. The bomber sank into the Overton Arm and stayed hidden for more than half a century. A private dive team finally found it in 2001, sitting on the bottom at around 280 feet. A wrecked American bomber parked in the dark in a lake that people water ski on. But the strangest thing the water has been holding is not a body or a bomber. It is a town. Before Lake Mead existed, this valley had people in it. There was a settlement called St. Thomas, founded by Mormon pioneers in the 1860s. It had homes, a school, a store, an ice cream parlor, farms along the river bottom. At its peak, a few hundred people lived there. It had a post office, a school with a bell, a general store, and an ice cream parlor that people remembered for the rest of their lives. Families had farmed that river bottom for 3 generations. Then the government built the Hoover Dam. The water did not arrive all at once. It came slowly, over years, and everyone in St. Thomas watched it come. Families were bought out and told to leave. Many of them argued that the price they were offered was nowhere near what their land and their work were worth, and they lost that argument because the dam was already being built and the water was already coming. Some took their houses apart board by board and carried the pieces away on wagons. Some set their homes on fire rather than watch the lake take them. Others simply locked the door and walked out, and the water kept climbing through the streets, 1 yard at a time, year after year. One man stayed longer than anyone else. His name was Hugh Lord. On the 11th of June, 1938, the lake finally reached his front door. So he got into a rowboat, pushed off from his own house, and paddled away while it went under behind him. At its highest, the water sat 60 feet above the tallest building in town. St. Thomas stayed down there, invisible, for most of a century. Except it has never stayed gone. The town has surfaced before. When the lake dipped in the 1960s, and again in the 1980s, the ruins came up out of the water like something testing whether anyone was still watching. And then the lake rose and took them back. Then the drought came, and this time it did not stop. The lake began to fall, and in the early 2000s the town started coming back. First the tops of foundations, then whole walls, then streets you can walk down. And unlike every other time, it has stayed uncovered ever since. There are people alive who were born in that valley, and their children and grandchildren, who can now drive out, park, and walk through the streets their family was ordered to leave. Standing in a doorway that has spent longer underwater than it ever spent above it. Today you can park a car and hike out to it. You can stand inside the outline of somebody's house, on the floor of a town the United States drowned on purpose. And the only reason you are standing there is that the water ran out. The National Park Service now protects it as a historic site. A ghost town that is only a ghost town when there is not enough water to bury it. So think about what this lake actually is. It is a container for things America decided to put underwater. Some of it was official. A town was surveyed, appraised, paid for, and drowned, with paperwork for the good of the cities downstream. Some of it was not official at all. A man was shot and hidden in a barrel by somebody who assumed the water would keep the secret forever. Both of those bets were made on the same assumption, that the lake would always be there, and the water is still going down. Engineers have a term for the worst case, dead pool. It is the level where the reservoir drops so low that water can no longer pass through the dam at all. For the Hoover Dam, that number is 895 feet. Every foot the lake loses uncovers more shoreline that nobody has walked on since the 1930s. The lake is not really giving anything back. It is just failing to keep it. A murdered man nobody can name. 3 more sets of remains. A bomber from a secret flight. And an entire American town that the government put underwater and the drought handed back. So here is what I keep asking. If 80 years of drought only got us this far down, what is still under the part that has not dried out yet? Tell me what you think is down there. I read the comments. And if you want the history that is hiding in plain sight, that is what this channel digs up. Subscribe and stay for the next one, because Lake Mead was never a lake. It was a lid.